Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Hope everyone's having a fantastic start to your day. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you for chiming in, checking things out here on good old BlueRidgeSilverhound. Today, we have a topic that's probably been long overdue. Okay, the process of grading coins. You got to know exactly what's worth sending out. Now, right off the bat, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or, pull wool over anybody's eyes. Approximately 99.5%, I was going to say 99.9, but that's not entirely true. 99.5% of all coins out there do not deserve any grading considerations, especially when it comes to sending these puppies out to PCGS or NGC. We're going to get into why here in a moment, and a lot of it has to do with the actual cost of sending these coins out. With a world that is completely dominated by third-party grading, and it doesn't matter what type of collectible you choose, okay? Numismatics, which is what we normally talk about, coins and currency and all that great stuff, are things that we talk about on this channel. But I also have a channel that's dedicated to collectibles. Turns out it's called Blue Ridge Collectibles. Who would have thought? That is also my other channel. It's not nearly as robust and vibrant as this one because I haven't been on there much recently. I did upload a video a few days ago, but in any event, you pick any type of collectible when it comes to grading, and it exists. We have coins, which is obviously what we're going to talk about today. There's sports cards, there's trading card games, there's video games, there's also, believe it or not, sealed VHS tapes are a thing today. There is actually a grading company that actually grades those, comic books, you name it. It's all over the place. There's kind of like this extra emphasis of getting something graded and then the realized potential of making a boatload of money. I think this is something that hasn't been more apparent than it did about 18 months ago when the collectibles market just went absolutely ridiculously busted in nature, where it artificially ran up the price of a lot of these collectibles to the point where it was an unnatural sustained growth. All right. There was no regular cycle 18 months ago when it came to collectibles. However, I'm happy to say that coins has weathered the storm really well. Okay, and then there is a continued kind of desire and emphasis on grading coins, especially for the new folks that come in. Maybe they've crossed over from sports cards or coming in, and they want to try out coins because they know and hope that there's a lot of potential to to supplement an income or maybe make it a primary income. There are people that do this every single day. Now, I have a few coins that I wanted to show you before I minimize the screen because the last thing you guys need to do is stare at my beautiful face. So I have a few examples of coins that, probably could, make the argument of grading. So I have here, it was that 1897 Indian head cent. As you can see, it's graded Mint State 63 brown. Now, I bought this coin graded already. But this is probably not the best example because 1897 is a very common date. Even in much higher grades, you can find this particular coin in mint state condition. It could be a mint state brown, mint state red, or mint state red brown. This one I'm more shocked that it's brown. It looks probably more red brown than anything else. And then mint state red. Of course, mint state red anything when it comes to early coppers is kind of like a gold standard type of requirement for grading. And especially when you get into much older coins like the braided hairs, coronets, and then further back all the way to draped bust. By the way, if you found a full red mint state draped bust coin or a flowing hair, man, that's a fortune waiting to happen there. But yeah, anything early, I would say much more tougher dates, more key dates, tougher dates being, coins of like the 1860s, 1870s, all certainly qualify within coins that I would say are grade worthy. Now here's a modern, Okay, and this is a 2019 West Point War in the Pacific quarter. Now, you guys notice the actual numerical grade on there is Mid-State 67. I've bought a number of these, and I've promoted, I would say about a year ago, that Mid-State 67s of the West Point circulation rarity quarters are kind of like a target, and we're seeing that. There are certain national parks that have sold in excess of $1,000 per coin, and they just continuously go up because the populations of Mid-State 67 examples of these particular coins, keeping in mind that these are circulation rarities, they only made 2 million per design. The Mid-State 67s had a huge drop-off. So the population reports, if you were to look at them on like PCGS's website or NGC, you kind of crest and you reach a peak at Mid-State 65 and 66, and then there's a sharp drop-off to Mid-State 67, where let's say there's maybe 2,000, 2,500 Mid-State 65s. When you get to 67, it might be just a few hundred, if that. So I've always said that if you're able to pick these up already graded as a 67, these are really a very wise investment choice for the future. Yeah, they're not silver, they're not old or anything like that, but they are low mintage. And when it comes to circulating rarity coinage, if you got them, these might be a surefire bet to get graded. All right, so outside of the West Point kind of like specialty strike type coins, I wouldn't trust grading any other modern. I just really wouldn't. It's very speculative. It's very volatile. Grading, as you know, can be a little bit subjective, but when you're sending it off to PCGS or NGC, you're really stuck to their standards, okay? Not yours. Don't take it personally. It's their standards, and you're paying them for those standards. And finally, the last one that I would say is a no-brainer kind of grade are going to be your obsolete type of coins that exhibit some pretty nice rare errors or varieties. Now, this is a 1923 piece dollar. You guys have seen this before, and it says rotated die error. But when you flip it over, see it's the rotation's about 80 degrees clockwise. Now, this is one right here I wouldn't hesitate to grade. Not at all. This is a coin that I've had relatively recently, I would say since the holidays, maybe even after the summertime, that I ended up buying, and I love it so much. And it's right in the wheelhouse of the grade assembling for a piece dollar set, and that's 61. But not all coins really fit this mold. Now let's talk a little bit about errors and varieties, okay? Because it's a very broad subject. It exists across all denominations, across all different stages and ages and all that stuff of these coins. You can find them as early as, the Drake Bust series, the early federal age of U.S. coinage, all the way up to the current stuff. Now, I would say this is kind of like where that 99.5% statistic comes into play. About 99.5% of those particular groups of coins, now it's a pretty big group, errors and varieties, do not need to be graded. Here's the big reason. A lot of these coins, if you're able to take good photography and you're interested in selling these coins, they will sell themselves without the aid of any sort of authentication, anything like that. These things generally are tough to replicate and counterfeit. Now, on the variety side, there are a few coins that obviously people have attempted to counterfeit. Okay, the 55 DDO, I did a video on that the other day. It's a pretty good watch if you haven't seen it yet. But for the most part, a lot of the errors that are in existence, especially the much more modern type of errors, you don't even need to grade them because they will realize full market value with or without the slab. And grading varieties and errors are incredibly expensive. We're actually going to take a look at the PCGS form that's online, so that way you guys can see how much it costs to submit, say, an error coin through PCGS. It's very expensive, and you have to be absolutely sure that you do want to grade it. And really, at the end of the day, what's going to be your motive? Is it to sell it? Is it to keep it in your collection? Because you might be able to justify, say, the $90 to $100 submission fee for an error if it's going to stay in your collection, especially if maybe it belonged to a loved one or a friend or something like that. So that's something also to take into consideration, is what's going to be your short and long-term plans for the coins that you think you want to grade. Now, I also do have examples of coins that I wouldn't even grade, but these are already graded because that's the way I bought them. So any specialty type of tokens like this Colombian Expo, I guess pressed dime right here, which by the way was pressed on a barber dime. Now this is something right here that I think the grading slab is unnecessary. Again, prefacing errors and varieties. This is something that you could certainly sell on its own without the aid of plastic. And you're going to find that the price that you ultimately end up achieving for these type of coins, any sort of like tokens or good for tokens, even silverware tokens, you know, it's going to be the same market value as if it was graded. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Here's also one of those silverware tokens. Again, these things are classified by rarity from R1 to I believe R9 or R10, which means there's only maybe 2 or 3 extant. So in that particular case, you don't need to grade these for any reason, because again, the coins are distinguishable. If you're able to provide a catalog number, which is a fold number for silverware tokens, you'll be able to sell this really easily without having it graded. And believe it or not, most experts in the field of silverware tokens and other ephemeria of that type, they prefer to have their items raw, ungraded. So here's another one. This one will hit home to a lot of you. 1950D Jefferson Nickel, of course, is the consummate key date of the series. However, I would never grade this for any reason. As you could tell, it doesn't even have full steps. Yet, this coin right here in a mid-state 66 is probably still worth about 25 to 30 bucks, whereas the grading submission fee all by itself is the value of the coin. It really doesn't change the value of the coin because it is graded in here. And then finally, ultra moderns, baby. Don't touch them with a 10-foot pole. I know there's been a lot of talk of registry sets and all that stuff. The thing about these ultra moderns is you can't send just one coin. And this is where it gets very precarious and very expensive. When you send out one coin, you're pretty much laying it all on the line. You're willing to pay the $35 submission fee. You're willing to pay for the registered mail, which is another 20 bucks or somewhere thereabouts. And you're willing to wait all this time. Okay, you're only sending out maybe 1 or 2 coins. Maybe they're 2 different coins that are ultra modern. Okay, anything over 1950 to present is what I consider kind of like more of the modern type of coins. But when you send these things out, do not be surprised that these things come back, in your opinion, to be vastly undergraded. But you have to keep in mind, the graders hold these particular coins to a much higher standard. Okay, they are a little bit more finicky and fickle when it comes to grading moderns because they expect damn near perfection. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, there are illusions of grandeur out there of being able to make $1,000 off of a coin that you pulled out of circulation while it's been done before. You have to keep in mind that those expectations are unrealistic in today's market. Because first of all, while the registry set is still a very robust and healthy practice in numismatics, it's one where I've seen the coins kind of like have slipped and have gone down over to, I would say, the last like 5 to 8 years. A lot of the coins that used to sell for $5,000 to $8,000 are selling for about half that now. But that's because a lot of people are sending coins out to these graders, and then there's more flooding into the population reports, therefore eroding the value of these coins. At the end of the day, based off of your cost basis of sending these coins out to either one of those graders, you're going to find that sometimes you'll either break even, make just a little bit more money, or you're going to lose a lot. Okay, the few times that I've done it, about 7 to 8 years ago, I've lost money. And it was only until my last final submission where I broke even. and I swore it off. I'm like, I'm done. I would never do it again. And that's why you don't see me do too many grading submission videos, is because at the end of the day, sometimes it's just not worth it. You have to really pick your battles. But the most important component to grading coins, and this is something that I always tell a lot of folks, do your research. The coin that you're sending out, if you're willing to pay $50 to ship it and the submission fees, what's going to be your return from that coin? And you have to keep in mind the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, and you need to kind of work within that. Let's say the worst case scenario for this 1966 quarter turns out that in a Mint-State 66 it's worth about $20, yet you manage to pay $30 plus shipping to send just this one coin out. However, if it grades out at 67, that automatically turns into $800. Now, there is a pretty substantial range between the 66 and 67 because there are so many more graded in the 66 in the population reports than there are that much higher grade. So as you can see with a coin like this, there's no safety net. And again, this is going to be kind of like a personal realization. You're going to look yourself in the mirror like, well, I have 10 of these I need to send out, and I need to have at least one of them come back at 67. But you really have to kind of like decide if you're willing to kind of put the Vegas high roller component into your grading submission, which at times is very unrealistic when you're deciding to grade these. If it's going to cost you to submit 10 coins, $300, you better make sure that at least one of them comes back at 67, because if it doesn't, you'll lose money. All right, you'll lose about $100, $125 off of that submission. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at PCGS's website. Again, a lot of us getting into the hobby, I'm going to reiterate this, all right, we hope for coins like this. This 1921 matte proof peace dollar is absolutely ridiculous, and this is a kind of like flair and drama that we're all expecting when it comes to grading. And generally, with a lot of new folks, when they watch their first video, they're like, that's the ticket, I could do that. All right, you go out, you get some coins from the bank, and then you automatically assume that you have it figured out. All right, this is the actual kind of like dream scenario. This is more of what the reality is going to end up being. Lo and behold, all right, I got this BU roll of 1962 Jefferson Nickels. I found one that I think is grade worthy. It looks like it has full steps, and I use the words looks like, quote unquote, in this particular instance. And it comes back a Mint-State 64. All right. And as you can see, I mean, nothing wrong with the seller. They do have a bargain kind of like graded Jefferson nickel available for you. But look, they're trying to scratch $6 and claw $6 out of this listing. And oftentimes when it comes to these ultra modern coins, and then people kind of have in these visions that they could get this figured out to where they could make money every time they send a submission out, keep in mind, this is kind of like more of the reality, more so the perception. The perception is that 1921 peace dollar, this is more of the reality, especially if you don't know what you're doing in your grading acumen. You really have to knock it out of the park. All right, 64s don't sell for nothing, on much more modern coins. You got to keep that in mind. It's only when you get to the top echelon level of the population reports and the rarities of some of these early coins, like, say, the 21, where it matters the most. All right, so when you're on to PCGS's website, real easy, PCGS.com, you're going to go under Services. All right, so you can either do one of two things. The old school people, they like to handwrite their own submission forms. Okay, it gives them a little bit more time to kind of like read and examine the form and exactly know what they need to do. Okay, so more the old school people, they like to do that sort of thing. But you could also submit your coin online. Okay, much like you can with PSA grading for sports cards and all that great stuff. Go ahead and fill out the online submission form. Okay, it's going to, at the very end, spit out the pre-typed out submission form that you're going to accompany with your submission when you finally decide to mail it to PCGS headquarters. So for this particular exercise, we're going to look at the printable submission form on screen. And you could also send out banknotes through PCGS currency as well. So you're going to pick and choose which one you want to submit. We're going to do the coin submission form for US coins, just because that's kind of like the default for a lot of my viewing audience. So let's see here. All right, so it downloaded it. I'm going to go ahead and open this puppy up here. So it downloads the form as maybe a type of PDF or something like that. Let's see where we're at here. It might not be completely whatchamacallit. I mean, worst comes to worst, let's do this instead. We're going to view the online coin submission form. And there's an online this thing right here. So this is the submission guidelines form. This is what it looks like if you decide to print out a hard copy. Now, there's a lot going on here, all right? But just like reading a book, you're going to start from the top and then you're going to work your way down, all right? So you're going to go start from the top left. You have PCGS's information. You have the actual shipping date or shipping address. U.S. submission form, that's important. You want to make sure that you choose the U.S. submission form and not the World Coins one. The yellow box, you stay away from. And if you're not a member, you also have to be a member. So this is an extra added expense. All right. If this is your first time grading, keep in mind that this is a part of the process that you don't ever skip. If you upload an actual form, okay, it's going to force you to pick one of these if you're not a member yet. For a lot of the new folks, I would suggest just doing the silver version. There's gold and platinum. Now, with the higher tiers, you also get grading vouchers as well. And the higher up you are, the more grading vouchers that you do receive. And I think that the actual price of grading coins is a little bit less as well. Or you might get a little bit of a price break. That may or may not be true. But there are extra perks with those higher member levels. All right, so pretty easy. Member name, number, you're going to fill that in first. And I like how it highlights everything as I drag and click onto it. You're going to go ahead and enter in your address information, your name. Make sure you are writing as clean and legible as you can. You're going to go ahead and pick a service group. Do you want to do standard or gold shield? Gold Shield is an extra added service. You know, it may or may not apply to you. For instance, I have this Mint State 67 Warren to Pacific quarter. That's gold shielded. All right. And then they also have the genuine option over here. Holder coins with genuine details grade or do not holder. And that's completely up to you. You can opt to not have them holdered. So in the event, let's say you bought a coin on eBay and you're a little bit unsure of its authenticity or if it's a genuine, wholesome coin that hasn't been cleaned or it has no damage, you could elect to do one or the other. Because, you know, let's say if a coin comes back details grade with like a scratch and you bought it on eBay, you're going to have to crack it out and send it back to them. So you have to really decide, do you want to do that? Service type. Okay, so we have a couple different options here. You got grading. That's when you just submit a raw coin for the first time to get graded. There's a regrade. Let's say you sent out this quarter right here that came as a 67 and you feel like it should be a 67 plus or 68. You could resend this coin back, pay for the regrade. They'll take a second look at it. Crossover. So if you sent an NGC graded coin to PCGS for a crossover, you're going to end up paying for that fee as well. Reholder. Let's say you have a crack on one of your slabs. You want to get it reholder. They could do that for you. They have reconsideration. They have full grade, which is the default. They have plus grades. You can also, hit that right there to do a plus grade, which is simply just a 0.5 or a half grade on every grade, a numerical grade that exists. suffix, and any. I don't know what the any is. All right, service levels. Now, this is where it can get a little bit confusing, but you have to understand what we have here. So your service levels, I'm not going to highlight it in pink. So you have rarities. So the grading fee is $300. It has no maximum coin value. You need to determine what the coin value is of your specimens before you send it out, because that's going to dictate how much they're going to charge you for each one of your coins. You want to make sure that you're not being overbearing about it and saying, oh yeah, every single coin I'm sending is 10 grand. And it's like, no, it's not. When you get it back, it's worth $5.95, like that nickel. Don't overstep it. You want to keep the service level cheap as you can. And let's say if it hits that big pop, PCGS will auto adjust it for you. All right. But always start low and then have PCGS work it up for you. That's going to save the day right there. So you have rarities, you have walkthrough, those are coins up to 100K. You have express, those are coins up to $10,000. Of course, they all take a however long they are for their respective levels. Mint errors and special issues, $65, which is not cheap. That's why we were going to talk about $65 for a mint error is quite pricey. Economy special issues, $30. And then you have just kind of like the regular stuff, which I like to use. You have regular at $38. That's up to $2,500 value. Economy, non-gold. So you can't issue gold coins for this one. That's $22, but the max value is $300. Modern, which is 1965 and up, is $30 per coin. $2,500 maximum value. Again, if you're submitting a coin that has at the top pop a price tag of say $7,500, go ahead and click the modern and let them bump it up for you. So if it hits a 67, grade wise, let them adjust the actual amount of money that they charge you for it. You'll thank me later. Modern value, which is 65 to date, $17, and that one is a max value of $300. And then you have other things here, reholders and guarantee resubmission and all that great crap. All right, and then you're going to come down here and you're just going to fill out the information line by line of your coin. All right, so you're going to put in the quantity. If you're submitting, say, 10 1965 Washington quarters, you'll put a quantity of 10. Okay, and then just go ahead and put in all of the other pertinent information. You don't necessarily have to fill out every single column on there. You don't even have to fill out grade, like specifying a minimum grade, because if they don't grade out 67, they're just going to send you all the raw coins back, and they're still going to charge you the $22 or the $30 or however much it is. But just go ahead and fill out the information, and then you'll get to the bottom where you opt for a shipping return option for you. Do you want it FedEx? Do you want overnighted? Do you just want regular mail? Specify that as well. And then at the bottom, number 9 box here, you're going to go ahead and tally up all of your fees, put it in there. And that's it. And then make sure you put in your credit card information and then sign the form at the bottom. And again, this is a form that you could fill out online. That's probably easier for a lot of you folks that could prefer to do this kind of work on the computer rather than sitting there handwriting it. Because I know when I handwrite stuff, sometimes I'll screw up a little bit and I'll have to reprint the sheet, start all over. I like to work off of the computer on the editable format for the online submission form. But that's just me. Could be different with you. But as you can tell, the most impactful part of this form that I had talked about is that service level fee. Okay, you can see that on average, coins cost about $25 a pop to send out. Now, if you send only one coin, again, that's like the most maddening thing that you could do, unless it's like you have a really rare Stella $4 gold that you just want to submit that one coin as a rarities and have it come back. And that makes sense. I would say coins that have a value of $1,000, $2,000, you can afford to send out just that one coin. All right, but as far as ultra modern, you want to make sure you pump the brakes first. You do your research. You got to realize how much these coins sell at. You got to kind of recognize if indeed there is a safety net floor. So that way, if by the grace of God you didn't quite get your top pop grades recognized and they were all kind of like 1 grade point under it, will you lose money or will you make money? You guys need to know that. But yeah, it's not a cheap service by any stretch, but you guys need to know this. All right. And this is kind of like when you look at this form and you see the prices, it's not cheap. They all add up. I have done submissions where I filled out this entire sheet with coins with multiple quantities of each. And, you know, when you're sitting there looking at the grand total of like $800 just in submission fees, you guys will understand the importance of doing your homework. Okay, this is something that you can't really toy with. You're all in. You're all in, right? It's like World Poker Tour type stakes when you're sitting here with this form in your face and you're looking at your stack of coins like, yeah, I just pulled all these out of a bank box and I'm sitting here kind of like second guessing myself. Do I really want to do this? Because it's going to cost me $1,000. So, you know, it is what it is. There's no really delicate way of saying, yeah, go ahead and, you know, push these folks along to getting their coins graded because, you know, at the end of the day, you guys are spending your hard-earned money. All right. Some of you are putting all your chips on the table. You're taking like half of your paycheck and you're trying to figure out, you know, the grading. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to put in $250 into grading these coins. And then, you know, yeah, I'm going to be making money for next month and all that. Don't go into it playing with the money that's meant to put food on the table, to put a roof over your head and all that stuff. There's going to be a time and place for that, but you need to start out slow. Okay, you need to educate yourself on the grading standards. You need to educate yourself on the minting processes, which is why there's a lot of great videos on YouTube from the ANA, from the US Mint, kind of archive type of videos that show the minting process. There's a lot of stuff that I would recommend that you guys do first to understand the base process. There's a foundation to this hobby. You need to understand the foundation before you go dripping cold hard cash all over the place on grading submissions, and you at the end of the day you come in way in over your head when you get your submission back, come to find out that you lost $500 out of your $1,000 submission. So don't do that. I'm not a supporter of such a thing. And again, keep in mind, I want you to use kind of like the reverse psychology to all this. At worst, expect stuff like this. 62 Jefferson nickel, mint state 64 at $5.95, especially when you're looking at moderns. But hope for this. All right. Expect this and know that most of the time this is how your coins going to come out. But ultimately, this is the goal right here. And to get to this level takes many, many, many weeks, months, years of dedication for your educational kind of progression in this hobby. If you don't have that, you'll never realize the potential of something that's 6 figures, 5 figures, 4 figures, you know. So that's going to do it. Very long video. Hopefully you guys aren't going to throw rocks at me because of it. We covered a lot of content, and hopefully a lot of things will help you guys wake up and realize that this is not for the faint of heart. You have to be absolutely confident in your ability to grade coins before they even leave your house or your place of business. Well, that's it, guys. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. It sure was a pleasure. I want to thank you guys again for joining in on this educational video. But that's it. All right. Best of luck. Happy hunting. And I guess I'll see you guys on the next coin video. So long.